Alright, now it's going.
Okay.
Alright, it's recording.
You don't have her.
I know. I have to ask her that.
She might not. She probably.
And I need the last kid there.
Yeah, the last one.
Cameron.
Cameron.
idea, Mom. Yes.
What?
You should be able to. That starts it recording again.
Good. Okay.
Good lights on.
Yes, that means you're on
I'm
camera. Okay. We are here. It's the January the 12th. We're going to have an interview with Tudie to kind of have a family history. So you tell us everything you know about everything. How about we start back with the memories you have of the earliest relative?
Okay, I'll start. The earliest thing that I remember was when my brother Jack was born, and on the 3rd of November, 4 years after I was born. And I had always been the apple of my father's eye, I thought. However, when Jack was born, he was born at Old Sibley Hospital up at on North Capitol Street. And so Daddy took me, and his cousin came down from New York. The cousin's name was, hold it, let me think of his name. Is he on here?
Your father's cousin?
Cousin, yeah.
Should be. Let's see, yeah.
I haven't seen that.
Abner and
His cousin.
Rogers. Was it a Lakeman?
No, it wasn't a Lakeland.
Okay, I got Barnes, Watson,
Yeah.
Taylor, Jacob. I'm not sure.
His wife's name was Marjorie. And remember, I told you once before that you showed me a letter that you had.
Isn't that Bain?
Bain, George Bain.
Oh.
Thank you.
Okay.
There we are. So there we go. Now that's my first memory.
Okay.
And George came down and they went over to Sibley Hospital. Did you turn it back on now?
Yes, it's on.
And they made me stay downstairs because they wouldn't let me go upstairs to see the baby. So I got mad about it, and it was snowing outside. And we had to walk back about 4 blocks we were living at my grandmother's house on I Street. That's E-Y, no, not E-Y, it's I, the letter I. The first block. And I think it was 34 I Street, Northwest. And so I was so mad that I told my father I was going to roll in the dirt. And he said, "You're doing, I'm going to spank you." And he sure enough grabbed a hold of my hand and turned me over his knee and gave me 2 or 3 whacks on my bottom.
Welcome to brother, huh?
Oh, yeah. Well, welcome to Jack.
Yeah. That started it all.
And that's as far back as my memory. So I was, let's see, I was born December of 17 and Jack was born
November.
21.
November 20?
21.
21.
Yeah.
So I was almost 4 years old.
Wow. That's something.
So I remember, and then they tell me that the reason that he spanked me was because I had a brand new coat on and I got it all dirty with the mud and the snow and so forth.
Because you were 4.
I was revolting. And so then I no longer became the apple of my daddy's eye. But he became very popular on the Lakeland side of the family because he was the first boy and he was carrying on the name. And I think there was a lot of animosity there because of the way that it happened. that Mama, of course I never referred to this to anybody ever. I was always so surprised. I guess I must have been in my 20s or 30s before I ever realized that they weren't married until, let's see, May, the 18th of May, and I was born the following December.
A little close. Cutting it real close.
Didn't bother me at the least, but I was shocked to think that I grew so old And then that never even dawned on me, you know.
But she was only 18,
And
right?
she was only 18
Yeah.
years old. And Daddy was, he was 6 years older. He was 25, I guess, 24, 25. So. But he had a lot of girlfriends. And, but this one, he had to marry.
And here we all are. That many
right.
years
That
later.
started it all.
That's for
Here
sure.
I am.
That's great. That's wonderful.
So then, let's see, so then, so the Lakemans didn't get along well with the Rose. And I think that
Do you know why?
neither one, because the Lakemans thought that the Rose weren't good enough, and vice versa, the Rose thought the Lakemans weren't good enough. Now I won't give you any opinion because I was, you know, partial on both sides. So, and if it hadn't have been for the Lakemans, I don't think any of us would be here today because my father wasn't. He made a good grandfather, as you said earlier, but somebody. And but as a father, but he had a lot of redeeming qualities also. But I'll get to those a little bit later. So as it turned out, Jack became very popular on the Lakeland side of the family, and the pictures that were taken, most of them were all of Jack, and I wasn't in too many of the pictures that were taken that I
Even as number
in Alice.
As the first child, they weren't taking pictures of you.
I have
Terrible.
a picture of me. I have it on the wall with me on the pony. You know that used to be the thing. The pony came around with a van, and they put the baby on the pony. So, and but that was, and I was crying, and I guess I didn't want to get up on the pony, or I was scared or something. But that was a. Oh, and then I have a picture of Nanny Rowe, my maternal grandmother, taken over in front of Gonzaga High School, and which is still there. The rest of that block of I Street is gone because that is now the football field and stadium for Gonzaga High School.
Oh.
And so then let's see, I have a picture. I was in a baby carriage, one of those big old-fashioned things with a lot of fussy stuff around it. And Nanny Rowe was holding me, and for the picture she has of holding me in her arms, and then one was taken of the baby carriage, but I wasn't in the carriage. just the picture of the carriage. And then the picture of me being held by her. And that's the only picture that exists of her. I have that on the wall. You know, I have that whole wall in that extra bedroom with all the pictures and all. So that's the only one that
I'll need to scan that one so we can.
And then I only have one of Nanny Akey also, who was my paternal grandmother. You know, like this. And all of these nannies came about because I guess I couldn't say grandma or something, or granny or something. So it was just easier to say nanny.
How's the roof remote?
And then we lived in this Irish neighborhood, and the next door were the Sullivans, and the Sullivan, he was a saloon keeper until Prohibition came in, and he lost everything. But he had made an awful lot of money, and Nanny Rowe used to say Nanny Rowe kept chickens for me to eat, and to this day I hate chicken, eggs. I won't eat an egg. And then I married a man whose breakfast had to be.
You're not gonna be able to hear. You're not gonna be able to hear anything.
There
Yep.
it goes.
Mom, that's what you should.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Cool. You're good. Cool.
Sorry. Minor inconvenience.
There we go. You're good.
The generator. Please continue, Tudie.
Well, let's see, where was I when I?
The saloon keeper.
Who lost
guy-
everything because of Prohibition.
Yeah, the guy lost everything because of Prohibition. Was
Sullivan.
Sullivan.
Sullivan. Oh, used to throw the food over the fence to Nanny Rowe's chickens that she kept because so I would have a fresh egg every morning. And as I started to tell you, to this day I hate eggs. I don't eat them. I mean, I stay as far away. I do like them if they're deviled or something, but eggs, and I married a man that his breakfast had to have 2 eggs every morning.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I could never join him in his enthusiasm for that. But anyway, so that took care of Jack. And then things went along pretty well. We moved, Aunt Betty and Uncle Frank lived in an apartment down, and that's no longer there, 412 First Street Southwest. And it was down, Pennsylvania Avenue came up this way, and you went down, and there was the house office, the old house office building was on one side, and you went down 2 blocks, and right next door to the pants factory. And
Pants factory.
there was a pants factory there, and a Chinese laundry. And the pants factory was where they actually made pants. I don't know what kind, but I remember all these little foreign people would go in all the time because I had to go past them to go to school. And the reason I went past them because if I went around the regular way, there was a couple of boys that were in a garage, and they told me, "Little girl, come on in here, we want to show you something." And I said, "No." And I was scared to death.
I will bet.
And this boy was only in the 2nd grade, and I was just in the 1st grade. And so I ran all the way to school, and when I got to the school, the teacher wanted to know why I was so out of breath, and I told her, and she said, "You tell me who it is." And he had told me, "If you ever tell anybody who I am, I'm going to kill you." And so, when you're 6 years old,
I believe everything.
So I believed him. So then I went around the other way, so I had to go past the pants factory and the Chinese laundry. That's where I used to see these little, so I guess back in those days they didn't bother with whether you had a green card or not, but you were hired to work in the pants factory. And none of them looked like the rest of us. And so when we used to go out there, this is awful, it was a ching ching Chinaman, eats dead rats, chews them up like scissor snaps. And I taught that to my brother Jack.
Of course you did.
So
got carried on
I got it
forever.
from somebody else. Naturally, it wasn't original, but and so we'd stand outside every time the Chinese people would come in. That's what we'd holler, and I don't know whether they ever knew what we were saying because they would give us nasty looks all the time and let that person get away.
That's just terrible.
Then, let's see, we lived there. And then Daddy got a job, I don't know where it was, but he went up to New York, and we got out. So Aunt Betty and Uncle Frank had moved up to 19th and K Street Northwest in an apartment house called the Prince Carl, Karl. And they moved there. Now you go up that way down, you don't recognize anything that's there.
No.
And so they moved there, and so we were able to that's how we moved into 412 First Street Southwest, because they had moved up to K Street. And so we got this apartment, and it was one bedroom and a living room and an alcove, a bathroom, and a kitchen. And you ate in the kitchen. The kitchen was about the size of this space, and there was a table over one side, and there was a porch, kind of like this, and the porch had railings on it like that. And Jack tried to get his head through it one time, and I think I would have helped him probably. So, and let's see, Mama. So they went up to New York, and she took Jack with her, and then they sent me over to Nanny Rose on I Street, and so I stayed over there.
What kind of work did your father do?
Well, he was a statistician,
Okay.
but jobs were kind of hard to get, I guess. Of course, he'd gotten out of the Army, and that was World War I. He went into the Army when he married my mother. He didn't have a building. I don't think he had it. He had to quit school when his father died quite young, and he went to the old business high school, which at that time later became Roosevelt, but it was over on Rhode Island Avenue Northwest, and so he had to quit school, and so he didn't go on. And when he died, the interesting thing about that was the teacher that he had there, who was like a homeroom teacher, wrote the most beautiful letter to Mama and to the family, saying how Abner had been such an outstanding student, and she always wondered whatever became of him, and felt that there were great things ahead for him. But of course she had always felt so bad about his having to stop school and not continue his education. So let's see, they stayed up in New York, and they would come down and get me every now and then, and it goes in and out of, I had 3 friends. They were imaginary friends: Iris, Sis Bubbles, and Takus. Now don't ask me where I
What were their names?
Iwi, Sis Bubbles, and Takus. And I laughed at still at night and figured, I guess I got Iwi because Uncle Jake's wife, Uncle Jake was Nanny Rose, not Nanny Rose, Nanny Akey's brother, and his wife was Irene, and so I think they called her Irie, and so I guess Irene, and Sis Bubbles, I don't know, Sis, Daddy called Aunt Betty Sis. And so I guess I got Sis Bubbles from Bubbles World, no, Sis. And Kakus, I have no idea who Kakus was.
They were your imaginary friends.
They were my best friends, my imaginary friends. And Mama would say to me, "Who are you talking to?" And I'd say, "Iwi." And I would fuss at them because every time I'd then get fussed at, I'd fuss at one of my 3 friends. I would have made a good case for a psychiatrist. So Uncle Jake, that would be on the.
This is Roe?
No,
Lakeman.
Lakeman.
Oh, it's
It
Lakeman.
was on the
Oh,
Lakeman
see,
side.
there's Nanny Akey.
It was Sarah, fine Sarah.
Sarah Strong. Sarah Strong.
That was Nanny Akey.
I probably didn't pronounce strong, so Strong.
Sarah Strong. And then his name was Uncle
Right.
Jake, and he was married to
Let me get your book.
Irie.
Strong brother was Jacob, or Jake?
I don't know, we just Jake, J-A-K-E. And that's what Nanny Rowe always called Jack, was Jake. She never called
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Right,
she
I
never,
remember hearing
she
that.
always called him Jake.
Jake.
She called Bill Donald, and she called Betsy Betty Lou, and I was Toodles.
That's why nobody knows who.
Was Bill William Daniel?
Huh?
Was Uncle Bill William Daniel?
No, he was, maybe he was William Daniel, yeah. Bill.
Where's John?
Jack
further
never had a
down.
middle name. Mama used to say he did, but Jack
William
never
Allen.
did.
Bill
No,
was-
that's Uncle Bill.
that's who she's talking about.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Bill was William Allen.
William Allen, yeah.
that's right.
William-
Dad swore his name was.
He
middle
never
name
had a
was
middle name.
Daniel.
Even when he went in the army, he was Nimmy.
Yeah, I don't have a middle name
John
because he
Nimmy,
doesn't.
like,
Yeah.
That makes a lot of
no
sense.
middle initial.
So,
Jake.
Nanny Akey's
Is
brother's name was Jake,
Jake.
and he went by Iwi, is that?
No, his wife was Irie. Irene.
Oh.
Irene.
Her name was Irene, but
Okay.
Tudie couldn't
And they
pronounce
called
it.
her
Ah, okay, I
I
got it.
guess that's where I got Irie, Sis Bubbles, and Kakus. I must have been cockroaches or something. Cockroaches, I had no idea where that came from.
It's wonderful that you still have those names.
I
mean,
know.
That's the kind of stuff that just goes, you don't remember. That's funny.
so good. I don't know whether to ask a question now or
Yeah,
not.
certainly.
Sarah Nanny Akey Strong.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she was.
Pete Hellman, wasn't he part of the Strong family?
Yeah, but we found that out much later.
So he was actually a relative.
He could have been. I'm not sure about that. But
Okay.
Jack always thought maybe he was, yeah.
Didn't look at all like a Lakeman though,
No.
not a bit. And he was a big guy. At
Yeah.
least he was big when I was 4.
But Nanny Akey's family came from New York.
They
Is that
were
the
from
one?
New York,
Yeah.
yeah. And
Okay.
that's where, what was it, one of the presidents was related to them, was it Van Buren or one of those?
I didn't know.
Something like that.
Okay,
Okay. Oh, here's my sheet.
yeah.
And so let's see, I used to go up to New York every now and then, and they rented a room at a place called Mrs. Kelly's rooming house. And it was over in what is now the Harlem section.
Oh, New York City then.
New
Okay.
York City.
Okay, I was thinking it was way up.
No, New
New
York
York
City.
City.
And they would come and get me, we'd go up on the train. And then let's see, back at Nanny Rose, there was Uncle Paul and Aunt Lula lived there. And the house was basement, 1, 2, 3 floors. And this was at 50 I Street. And the first floor had stairways that went up to the second floor in the front. And they had a living room, a long hallway that went back to the dining room, which really was the kitchen, because the dining room was down below. Those houses were built back in the 1800s when they had servants, and they always had, and then the servants lived over there on DeFree Street, back behind. And but when we came along, of course, that was long gone, because she just was renting the house. Nanny Rue married a man who was much older than she, who had 13 children by his first wife. And that was Aunt Laura was the youngest of those children.
Yeah.
And Mama was the youngest of his second family. And his first wife was German, and they lived over in Baltimore. But
Yeah, Laura Augusta Stilts.
yeah.
That was her name.
Who, Aunt Laura's name?
No, this is
Laura
the
Augusta.
first wife,
Oh, of
Roe.
Roe.
Right. Did you know what his name? I've just called him Father Roe because I knew he was the
priest.
His name was Augustus.
And so was,
And he had a son by his first wife, and they called him Gus.
And he was a junior, or he was also an Augustus,
Uh-huh.
his son. Okay.
oh, here we go, 1, 2, 3, okay. Okay. Wow.
And then Aunt Helen appeared every now and then. And when she'd come, all hell would break loose, Nanny Rue used to say, because she would come up and then she'd get very upset. Mama was always having another baby every time she came up, and she'd get very upset about that.
Well, the Rose shouldn't throw too many stones there with all that number of kids. Oh, here she
And
is.
Aunt Helen never could have children. She was married to a handsome guy. She married him down in Panama. His name was John Sexton.
Yeah.
And so she had done everything to get pregnant, but wasn't able to. Then they found out that he was sterile. So, but
Yeah, he only lived to 27 years old.
Huh?
He only lived to be 27.
Who? John's?
It says,
No.
oh, no, wait a minute. Married in 1920. I don't know, we don't have a birth date on him.
No. I don't know. He died when we were living. He died during World War II.
This says 1947.
1947.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
That was
Yeah.
Helen's husband?
Yeah. mhm.
Didn't she-
They never divorced.
Didn't
Oh.
she have a child that died? Is that what you just said?
Did I? What?
Aunt Helen had a baby that died?
No,
Oh.
she could never get pregnant.
Oh.
No.
Uh-huh.
Found out later that he was the one that was sterile.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
And let me ask you, and because I don't follow this as well as Chris does. Nanny Akey was your grandmother,
yes.
okay?
The
All right,
Lakeman.
on the Lakeman side, and she married Abner Young Lakeman,
Yeah.
right? Not Abner Cranford.
He died of
This guy. Okay. I'm set. I'm good to go. All
And
right.
he died of what?
some kind of well, I think it was the same thing that Aunt Betty had. Kidney nephritis.
Nephritis? Nephritis?
Nephritis, yeah.
Okay.
And that's what Aunt Betty died of.
And Betsy used to have a lot of kidney problems too, didn't
Yeah.
she? Yeah. And I used to, but I don't anymore. I guess it runs in the family.
So let's see, then, so Aunt Helen would come up from Panama and she'd boss everybody around. And we had steps, I was gonna describe that house, and there was a second set of steps that came back in the back. And they came all the way up from down on the bottom, the first floor. And then that was for the servants when they come in, they could come through there, and then, you know, if you had the servants when the house was built. And so, I remember one time, I was scared to death of Aunt Helen when she'd come in, because she was very bossy, and she'd yell at you and tell you to do something, and you better damn sight do it, she'd say. And so, anyway, some of the better times that I had, though, was with and we had this cousin Lizzie up in Winchester, Virginia. And so Nanny Akey was sickly, and she had something wrong. She wouldn't go to the doctor. And old people in those days just didn't want to go to the doctor. I don't know, she said I'd have to take off my clothes, and she didn't want to undress and so forth. As a matter of fact, they called their husband Mr., you know, it was Mr. Rowe and Mr. Lakeman, and all of her friends called her Miss Ada and Miss Sarah. They never called anybody like Jackie or Chris. They just, everything was still so formal, sort of Victorian, you know.
That was the era.
Nanny Akey, so cousin Lizzie lived up there, and her name was Elizabeth Horsey, and she wore multitudes of petticoats, and when I'd see her coming, she would get a ride. She would get a ride down with somebody that was coming down to Washington, D.C., and they would drop her off. She had a horse and a buggy, and the horse's name was Lucy, and so they would take, Aunt Betty and Uncle Frank always had an automobile, and Uncle Frank loved his cars, and he had one of the first ones that came out. He would put an order in for something that was brand new, and it was a real sporty car. He had an Auburn that was a beautiful thing, and it was top went down on the thing, and this was back in the 20s. And so they would take us, that was always a thrill for me to go get in the car with them. And he always had a dog, and the dog's name was Duke, the first one that he had. And that's a picture of Jack taken with little Duke, a little white dog. And so, let's see. So they decided that Nanny Akey should go up and spend the summer up with cousin Lizzie. So Tudie was going to go up and be with her. Well, I loved it because there wasn't anything to do up there but me sit out underneath of these old oak trees. Now that's someplace I want to go before I'm gone. I want to go back and see if it's still like I remember it. Her father gave all the land up there that the courthouse was built on, and they tell me his picture was still in there up to about 20 years ago in the courthouse.
This is in West Virginia?
Horsey, H-O-R-S-E-Y.
But where?
At the courthouse in Winchester.
Winchester.
Winchester. And somebody that I knew had retired up there, and they said yes, they had gone to the courthouse for some reason, and there was this picture of this man named Horsey up there. But anyway, people always said that cousin Lizzie would never die a normal death because she always wore so many clothes, and she would take them off if she got too warm, and and so forth. Back in the days before we ever started wearing.
Yes.
And so she kept a pistol under every bed.
Oh my God.
And well, she said there were a lot of horse thieves still around and chicken thieves. she also kept this pic, and there was a chamber pot under every bed too.
Oh my
'cause
gosh.
there was no
plumbing.
plumbing up
No.
there, but this great big old house, it was so huge, and it was fun to run up and down, you know. And I was, let's see, I was 9 years old the first time I went up there. And I just loved it up there, sitting out under that oak tree and listening to the wind going blowing through and talking to my 3 friends, and it was just delightful. Irene, you having a good time?
Did you have any other real friends? Did you have any?
No,
And you were fine.
Mom, and I didn't have a cousin.
That's right.
Yeah, then I always said to Mom, I wish I had cousins. She says, well, you've got a brother.
You know, what more do you need?
And so while I was up there, then let's see, we moved. Daddy got a good job through Aunt Betty, and we moved to. Mama got a job at the Chastleton Hotel on 16th Street, working in on the reception desk and the telephone booth. They had a what they call a PBS board there. And so we got an apartment there. It was 2 bedrooms and a big living room, and it overlooked, and Aunt Laura and Uncle Renton, incidentally, they were never married.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
Who is this hussy?
who is she?
Laura. Oh, she always said she was married and he
That's
died
right.
in the war.
That's right, but he was married and had a family, and he was a traveling salesman.
Oh my goodness.
And she said that he had gotten a Mexican divorce, and they were married. But when he
Not true.
died,
Nobody knew about that, right?
nobody knew about that.
Wow.
But you see, he fell out of that hospital room, the old Sibley Hospital. They had given him an overdose of morphine, and the next nurse came on duty and gave him another one, and he had to go to the bathroom. They were putting new windows in, full-length windows and screens, and he got up and turned like he would in the apartment where they lived, and he walked right on out. And somebody across the way in another wing saw it and called from the desk, I guess. Mm-hmm. And so they came and they got him. She had just taken him in a taxi cab to Sibley Hospital, to the emergency room, and hadn't even gotten back home yet, and the hospital called her. So he was working for some company, and the company went right away and said, well, we're going to sue the hospital. Well, they tried to get people to say yes, that this one, but the nurses weren't allowed to do any talking or anything. So, so the 2 that were supposed to have been on duty, they couldn't find them. But she ended up getting, I think, $10,000 out of it. But the mother,
That's a lot of money back then.
yeah.
The wife or Aunt Laura?
The wife and a daughter appeared, and I was going. We were living up in Chevy Chase then, and I was going to work. So I came down the steps, and this cab was out front, and so here, this lady stopped me, and she said, "Excuse me, could you tell me if Laura Rowe lives here?" And I said, "Oh yeah, Aunt Laura's in there." She said, "Thank you very much." And so I went on down to get on the bus to go down Connecticut Avenue to work. And I found out that was Mrs. Flugel from California, the mother of his 4 children.
Oh.
And she had a come to Jesus moment with Aunt Laura, I bet.
Aunt Laura, poor soul. So she took it all in stride, you know. She was there wasn't a mean bone in her body. She used to make all of his silk shirts, and he wore silk shirts because she said
She made all
she made silk shirts for him.
my God.
And
Ain't love grand.
And she made all these beautiful doll clothes, and he said this was for one of his customers out there in California, and he would read letters off where the person would thank for the beautiful little outfit and so forth. and I don't know who Aunt Laura never saw
Now,
them.
did Aunt Laura ever have a child?
No,
No.
she had a tubal pregnancy, and when they first got together, and but they never had any children.
That's what you were looking at then.
So let's see. So I'll go back to my fun time up in Winchester.
Yeah.
I just love that. And so then Mama came up one time around Thanksgiving time, and Mama tells me, had always said Cousin Lizzie had an apple orchard, but we weren't allowed to eat any of the apples because she sold them, and the people would come in. But every Sunday we would get, or Saturday night rather, we would get in, she'd hook up Lucy, and we would get in the buggy, and they would have camp meetings. And we would go, and they'd have somebody coming. There was all this loud clapping and singing and so forth, and praise the Lord and so on.
Right.
And so, things that you see in the movies, but I never thought, at that time. But I was just Bubbles and Cactus, and I went, and they loved it.
Loved it.
They all said they did.
They said they loved it, right?
What was Elizabeth's last name?
Pardon me?
What was Lizzie's last name?
Horsey.
Horsey. Okay.
Horsey.
I never heard that.
I thought you had that in one of those.
I might.
Yeah, I think you did.
I think I didn't print out that right thing. Anyway. So, and you also, I think I remember the last time you talked about going to the Lakeland farm in Fauquier County, Virginia. Didn't you talk about that with the apple orchard or the apple?
I think it's the same one.
No, is that maybe that's I'm
It
mixing it up.
must have been up there in Winchester.
Okay.
Because I hadn't been to any
Okay.
of them. Yeah.
Okay.
But Aunt Betty always used to say, when you went through Virginia, she said all those crazy people that were up there in some place that they were called the Loves, or in Lovesville or something,
Okay.
Virginia, because I just saw it.
Okay.
She said they're all related to you, so wave to them as you go through.
Well,
But so let's see.
And Paul, Gami's brother, he never had children, did he?
No, and Aunt Helen didn't either, and
So
neither
you
did
had no
Aunt Betty,
cousins.
so I never had a cousin.
that's
And
okay.
we didn't. And then, of course, while we were living at the Chastleton, Mama got pregnant with Bill.
Just doesn't have a name. So he died.
Oh,
He was
okay.
young.
Okay.
Who's that?
In the same generation, let's see, as your mother, there was, this is from somebody else.
This is from those other Lakeland you met?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Not, part of the Lakeland clan, but not the clan you knew.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So, tell me, I'd like to document Aunt Betty.
Aunt Betty.
Yeah, because I understand from what you've been saying that she was kind of the savior for the
She
family.
was the savior. When we were living out northeast, let's see, we didn't have any coal, and we had a coal furnace. And so Aunt Betty would have a ton of coal dumped in the front yard for us. So I'd come home from school and get neighborhood kids and all, and we'd all throw get the coal down into the back.
That must have been a huge job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I had a better one because in the big house of Nanny Rose over there on I Street, I had learned to bank the furnace, and that was before you go to bed at night. So you closed off all the drafts, and then you put all of the coals up on the top of them, and then they just sat there. This was the days of the old time radiators, and where you dried everything right on the radiators. And of course we didn't have washing machines or anything, so we always had a colored lady come, and she would take the clothes to her house, and something like $1 a day or $1 for the whole load or something, and she would wash them and iron them. And then I learned Nanny Rose taught me to iron, but she had one of those we ironed on little thing like that, and it had a handle on it, and you put it on the stove, and you know, and when it lighted, and then Mama came home one day with an electric iron, and you have to take that oven and slam it down, and Nanny River would slam that down. Mama said, "You don't do that, Mama."
It's electric.
With an electric, you don't need to do that. You just go easy on it.
That must have been quite a switch. Quite a switch
Yeah.
from non-electric.
Yeah.
Can take a pause for a second?
Sure.
I'm just gonna, because I'm gonna take off. I'm taking off. I'm giving you a hug goodbye.
Oh,
I'm leaving.
you're leaving?
Yeah, I'm taking off. I was sort of, I tried to hug, so.
Oh, so you know what to do then.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
thank you, dear.
Thank
Yep.
you.
I'll
That's
see you guys
great.
around.
All right.
Okay.
You got your keys?
Cool. All right.
It's good to see you
Yeah,
again.
I'm interested in your 3 imaginary friends. I want to talk about them more.
We will hear more.
Take
Bye-bye.
Bye, Ryan.
Guys.
Thank you.
Now, do you have any stories of, like, your grandmother's mother? Do you have any stories of the generation before that? Nanny Akey's mother?
No, except Nanny Akey, of course, they were born during the Civil War.
Yeah.
And she used to teach me songs that they sang during the Civil War.
Wow.
Like
Okay.
Tenting Tonight, Tenting on the Old Campground. I can't carry a tune, as you all know. And so I grew up with things like that, you know. But it was always fun to be with them, to be with her, and especially, you know, to get away from the I Street crowd.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but and I was telling you about back in the thing,
Oh, yeah.
and then in the morning we went down and we took the thing and put the thing on it and shook the ashes down, and then you took them and put them in the coal hod, and then they went outside.
Yeah, so that you didn't burn the house down.
So you didn't burn the house down. And then they had people that came along in those days, that certain days that you had, you know, garbage pickup and trash pickup and the ash pickup.
The cinders
pickup,
or whatever, yeah. Oh, they picked that up separately?
Yeah, that was picked up separately.
And you think they used them for some other purpose?
I don't know what they used them for. All I know was that the ash man's coming, they'd holler, so we'd have to go get the stuff outside.
Wow.
And so, and those houses were cold, you know, they got a lot of empty space there. And then up on the top floor was Aunt Lou and Uncle Paul, and they, instead of bringing the garbage and the trash down, he fixed up a long rope, and he went all the way down to the ground, and so they would keep it up there, but it was like lighthouse keeping, they called it, and they would keep it up there by the sink in the kitchen, and when it would get full, she would take it, open up the window, and then holler, "Coming down," and let the thing down, and then Nanny Rowe would go out and empty it and holler up, "Lula, coming up."
Now, this is before indoor plumbing?
Pardon?
Was this before indoor plumbing, or was that, did you have plumbing there at that house?
Oh, no, they had plumbing.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I just
But
wondered.
they had gas lights.
Yeah, okay.
Because we had the little mantles, you know, that you had to
Yeah.
light and then blow out and then, you know, then put them back on.
My
Like
goodness.
Judy uses them, she has
In
those
Maine.
2 of them up in Maine.
Really?
And so we had, and so, let's see, trying to think. Oh, and Aunt Helen came up one time and she brought one of her, she had a dancing school down in Panama.
She must have been very athletic then.
She was, well, she went over to the nuns over there, the nuns of Notre Dame. And she went over there and she went to school there. She didn't go to public school.
Oh.
She went over there. She was very ambitious, and she wanted to make something of herself. And so she went over there and she would run little errands for them and so forth. And so they taught her to taking people down in to work, and you took the civil service down to Panama Canal. And so she came home and told Mama, her mama, that she was going down there, and Nanny Rowe, I understand, was horrified, because this was before I was born, because she said, you're leaving me and going down there, and Marguerite's pregnant, and Aunt Helen said, to hell with it. That was her favorite expression, to hell with it.
And so she just went.
And she went, and she really made something. That's when she met John, and she really made something out of herself. And so she got down there, and she met up with this woman, and I can't think of her name. It comes and goes every now and then. And the two of them opened up this dancing school on the, let's see, on the Atlantic side, and then one week they would go over to the Pacific side.
Oh.
And it was called Sexton and something else. And Mama used to have that picture of Aunt Helen with the shawl on, and standing up straight with the legs straight up in
Oh
the
my
air.
gosh.
You know, like this.
Yes.
Yeah.
The dance move.
And that would be in that stuff that Lee was supposed to have taken. I haven't heard any more from him. He did call me the day after my birthday.
Oh, did he?
I mean, not my birthday. Yes, my birthday. Yes, my birthday. And wished me a happy birthday.
Yeah.
But that's the last time I heard from him. And I said, oh, I want to talk to you about some things. And he said, well, I hope you have a nice Christmas. And that was it.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna have Bob call and see if we can't get together for dinner.
Yeah,
And maybe he'll bring the
Maybe.
pictures.
yeah,
That would be nice.
yeah.
Because I'll tell him I'm gonna, I'm planning to make all this stuff available to everybody.
Yeah.
And I mean, he can
Well, this
pass
is-
it on to his kids and stuff.
Well, I'm trying to go through and stuff that's thinking of what,
Yeah.
what would be interesting.
Did you hear stories when you were growing up about, like 2 or 3 generations before that stuck with you? I don't know that
Well,
kind of
the
stuff
only
sticks.
thing I remember is seeing the name of Eaton. Mama used to say, apparently she knew who they were. She said one of them, she'd say, oh, that's smart Alec Eaton, they would all call him. And I said, well, who is he? She said, oh, he was somebody that belonged to Mama.
Yeah.
Smart Alec Eaton.
Smart Alec Eaton.
And and let's see, oh, so Aunt Helen came up from Panama, and she brought this one girl, Margaret was her name, and she was the same age as I. She was a year older than I, and she and I shared a bed because Aunt Helen came up, and Uncle John had the front room, and they brought Salis with them. You remember Salis? Salis was from Salis was Aunt Helen's maid, and she was Jamaican. Her father was an English colonel, and she was from Jamaica, but they moved to Panama, to Cristobal, where Aunt Helen lived. And so Aunt Helen got her when she was just about 16 years old.
Oh.
And Salis could do everything. She could sew. She even opened up a tailoring shop.
Oh, wow.
And she came up here and got a high school degree, and she opened up a beauty shop on U Street,
Wow.
and she married this black man that she married. He was in the floor business, and they had the floors over there were those old oak things, and so Aunt Helen had him. The living room, the bedroom went all the way across the front of the house, and so which was about like from here to just like through here, and so it was a huge room, and so she had to remove all of the old stuff off, and they used that beautiful wood and they polished it. It was gorgeous. And she had some pretty rugs, a little bit larger than this, and that she had brought up from Panama, and then all of her dishes and stuff. And so
How long was she in Panama?
How long? I guess about 15 years
Oh,
all told.
That's
yeah.
a long time.
Mhm.
Did she
Well,
go
she
there when
went-
it first opened? I mean, the Panama Canal was like 1901 or 1902?
She went there, let's see, she went down there in 1917, because
Oh, okay.
Mama was pregnant with me.
Yeah.
And she didn't come back for good until she got this wonderful job with the Labor Department, and she transferred up from there. And he ran with the women all. At least he didn't run with the men. He ran with the womanizer, they call him.
Oh, really?
Sexton, John Sexton.
Uncle
Yeah.
John, he was handsome though. God, he was good looking. And I've got, and there were some of those pictures there of her wedding. And let's see. So she brought this Margaret up, because Margaret's mother was having a bad time. She was having change of life, and they put her in a sanitarium or something. And at that time, I didn't understand what it was all about. I think I was about 12 years old then. And I know I didn't like sharing a bed with this person that I really didn't know. And she had long golden curls, and Aunt Helen used to take them, and she had natural curly hair, and Aunt Helen used to love to make long curls. You know, that was quite the thing, and they put ribbons on them and hung down, and here I had all this straight hair, and I used to look at them.
It's beautiful curls.
And then let's see, then she took her back, because she went to school up here one half a year, and she was ahead of me because she was about a year and a half older than I. And so when they went back, and then when they came out finally, and she came up with Uncle John, and that's when they brought Salis, and she was through with Panama then, and that's when they had the floors done and all. And
When did Aunt Helen meet Flossie or Flo or the ladies
that was at the BLS, Bureau of Labor Statistics, because she transferred. She was working for the government down there also, and she transferred up here. She played mahjong, she played bridge. When we lived at the Chastleton, they had a bridge thing going every Saturday night. And I remember when she'd come up and visit us up there, Aunt Helen would go down and she'd always win a prize. And she'd come up with a couple vases that Mama had. And one of them, I think, Betsy took. And I said, oh, Aunt Helen, it's a good thing you got it because you were her baby. Aunt Helen won that downstairs. It was a pair. And downstairs playing bridge. And she played mahjong. She had this beautiful mahjong set. And so, let's see.
What year did John Sexton die?
47.
Oh, so when she
47.
met them,
Yeah.
that was when she, way after. I was not in the picture then. Betsy took over there.
Okay. All right.
What stories do you know about Uncle Paul? You have anything?
Oh, Uncle Paul. Uncle Paul was married to Aunt Lula, and they lived up in Pennsylvania. He was a fireman on the Pennsylvania Railroad, and his father was an engineer on the Pennsylvania, my grandfather, who was a nasty old person. I met him one time just before he died, and he said he was out at what they call the Washington Sand, the Sand Hospital out there, and we went, Mom and Aunt Helen and I went out to see him.
Now, this is Augustus Row?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And he said to me, who do you belong to? And I said, her. He said, her. What is her name? And I said, Mama, tell him your name. She said, I'm Marguerite. He said, are you Ada's daughter? And she said, yes. Oh, he said, he paid her $30 a month. And she had raised half of his kids, the younger ones, and then had 4 of her own by him. And two, she had a couple died, she had Susanna there, that's buried out there with her.
Oh, I don't even know that one.
Yeah, there was a little marker at the cemetery.
Because I have that Ada had Paul, Helen,
and
Marguerite, and Albert.
Albert, yeah.
But he died right away.
Albert died right at birth, right
Yeah.
after birth. I
And
think.
Susanna was just young when she died? Susanna was young when she died, or?
Susanna died. I think she was the first one. Yeah, because she named her that.
Okay.
Because there was a Susanna, I saw that.
Yeah, I saw there was, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And she was just young when she died?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Whew.
And then he went off with this woman named, her family owned all of Old Bowie, Maryland.
Oh,
And I'm trying to think of her name.
This stuff?
That's where he ended up.
No,
no.
no.
Who are you talking about? Paul?
Augustus.
No, not
No,
Paul.
Augustus.
My grandfather.
Oh,
No,
okay.
Uncle Paul was married to Aunt Lula.
Yeah, I got
And
little
then,
Beal.
yeah, and then they
Bell.
separated, and they never got a divorce. And,
She's
and
Lula
Uncle
Bell.
Paul, Uncle Paul went over there and took up with, went over to Baltimore, moved over there, and he took up with Elsie,
Oh my gosh.
but they never married.
I have lots of Elsies in my family too.
You have an Elsie?
Yeah, my grandmother's name was Elsie. I have a cousin who's Elsie. In these days.
So Lula had already died?
Huh?
Lula had already died when Paul went,
No.
no?
No. No, Aunt
70s.
Lula was still living when Paul died.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
No?
no, I've got her, I have that she died in 73 and he died in 75.
Oh, he died in 75.
That's what I mean, I don't even know where I got the information.
You're probably, I'm trying to think.
So he was 81? Does that sound right? He was 81 when he died?
Well, yeah, that sounds more like it, yeah.
Oh, and she was older than he was.
Aunt Lula was,
Yeah.
yeah, she was quite a bit older than
Yeah.
me.
4 years?
4 years.
4 years, yeah.
Yeah. Ah.
Uncle Paul loved big cars. He loved big cars. He used to pay me a quarter
I'm gonna.
a month
Did he really?
to hang a lantern on the car, because they passed a law that if you park on the street in D.C., you have to have a light on it. So he had a lantern, and I got 25 cents a month.
A month?
A month.
Did you spend it all in the same place?
Oh, Jack and I would go around to Offenbacher's office and get get candy.
Why won't this stop?
I'm gonna stop it with that other,
Yeah.
where did I put it?
Oh, here. It's flashing and it won't stop.